Welcome to Office Hours. I'm Steve Drost. With me as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr team. Now, what is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors, and our objective is incredibly simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? Now, each episode of Office Hours, we take a couple of cool items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives a little bit easier. Will, there's a story that we tell, I feel like every single prospective user of Quivr, and it's how I like to pre-populate my financial planning firm's workflows and tasks for the key things I do for my clients on January 1st. And well, it's the new year, and I had hundreds and hundreds of workflows get kicked off. So now I have the fun part, right? I got to make sure I do it all and make sure it all gets done, right?
You've made your list. You got to check it twice and get ready for December next year. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But what's interesting too is I find that, the latter part of that, the making sure the work gets done, but knowing where you are with that work is challenging, right? And especially as, my firm's small, right? It's just me and my mom. But for example, I was talking with a firm not too long ago. They've got, I don't know, a dozen, 15 employees, 1,000 clients, give or take. And you can do the math. They probably have 2, 3, 400 RMDs given their retirement niche. Imagine the operations person, the owner of the firm, each individual advisor. I mean, they're waking up in the middle of the night in November and December, making sure that RMDs are done, making sure, right, that all that stuff has to get taken care of, making sure that it is actually taken care of.
Yeah, and that point about waking up. I mean, to me, that's where a lot of this comes from. Is that fear of I'm going to miss something or I'm going to not do this for this client that it's supposed to get done. And one of the challenges, and the reason we like to get all this stuff in the system so early in the year is get it out of your head. You got to get it on a list somewhere that you can review the list. And, RMDs, I think, is a great example. I'm glad you brought that up too, because RMDs typically live under the household. And so one of the things that I think that we often get questions about is like, well, I've got this thing in the system now, but I want to see it like, I'm working on all of them. How do I get to those? How do I see those? And I think that's there's tricks to that, and there's ways to sort of implement that. I'm working on a specific thing right now. I've got a bunch of them. I just want to go bang them out. Where is my list? Like, how do I just see, this RMDs or QCDs or Roth conversions or, whatever it is that's that planning thing where you can kind of bunch them all up together and just spend your afternoon, processing a bunch of this stuff, but you got to be able to see it. I mean, you don't want to necessarily have to click through each household to go and check, okay, does this household have some? Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. Does this household have some? And where am I? It's really nice when you can sort of see it all in one place too, so that you can really be effective.
Yeah, and it's repeatable. It's easy. It's applicable to different things, not just RMDs, but Roth conversions, IRA contributions, account transfer forms, account applications. I mean, you name it. And it's really, like I said, it's not complex. And before we talk about this specific case, I need to make just kind of a proclamation to Quivr users where if there's something that is, I don't know, you're thinking to yourself, this is harder than it should be, or, I'm using paper for this, or I don't know how to keep track of that, bring it to Office Hours, because odds are there is a way to simplify that process in Quivr inside of Salesforce. So that's I'll get off my soapbox now, but now I do want to talk about the three key features or functions that you need to use, or you can use, to make this process very, very, very simple. And the first one's workflows. So I'm on record multiple times saying that when I was a solo advisor, I didn't like workflows. And that's kind of a weird thing because I started a CRM company, right? But I didn't like them. And the reason I didn't like them is I didn't find a ton of value in them, because if it was just me and my 30 or 40 clients, I have everything in my head. I know what needs to happen. Then when I hired, everything changed because then I had to get everything out of my head. Mom almost quit. I almost fired her. Christmas was almost awkward, but fortunately it wasn't because we figured that out, right? But when we look at workflows, not only does it document how things need to get done, help you implement your correct process, right? The process compliance that you like to say all the time, but it also gives us records. And if you kick off a workflow in the system for your RMD, have a record in the system with a unique ID that is reportable on. So the first thing, workflows. If you use the RMD workflow for all of your RMDs, whether you kick that off automatically or manually, you can now report on it, which brings us to our second feature that we need to understand, which are reports. And reports are so easy. All reports are is a collection of data. You want to see all open RMD workflows? You can get that in a few seconds, especially once you understand workflows. And Will, if you can't figure it out, what should you do?
Oh my gosh, so many options available to you, right? Send us an email, jump into the tickets. Best
Yes.
of all, like come to office hours and find out how other people are doing it too. Yeah, a lot of options there.
Yeah. So if you struggle with the reporting function, the learning curve is short on that. I'll give you, I promise that. But you can query that. Show me all open RMD workflows. I'm not kidding. I could build that in 30 seconds. The average person probably could build it close to that, 5 minutes max. All right. So now the first feature we need to know is workflows. Once we have workflows kicked off, we can then report on those workflows. Well, dashboards is the third thing. And dashboards are where we get to take the beautiful data that came from reports and display it in super intuitive formats. So, for example, in my firm, I have one dashboard that shows me every single open workflow in my system by category. I want to see all my open account transfers. I want to see all my open account applications, all of my open RMDs, all of my open QCDs, all my open, all of these things that I'm doing over and over again. Now, for things like RMDs, IRA contributions, things like that, I really care about that because I have a firm deadline, right? I have to get RMDs done by year end. I have to get my IRA contributions done by, I mean, technically it's April or when they file their tax return. I give myself a February 15th deadline because it's hard for people to file their taxes without me talking to them on February 15th. But right, I have all these things I need to do. Now imagine from that dashboard, right? I have this beautiful thing with a bunch of numbers that says there's 7 open RM or open account applications. What if it says there's 400 open RMDs? Imagine just clicking on that. And when you click on that, it shows you every single open workflow you have. Let's say it's a 4-step process. You can see every single person that hasn't started, every single person who's in step 2, every single person who's in step 3, every single person who's in step 4, but most importantly, everybody that's done. So as you get to June, July, August, September, October, you work through those. And then ultimately, my hope is when you get to the holiday season, you're done or you just have a few left, but you know instantly how many do I have? I can confirm everything's been done. And it's just, hopefully it gives you that peace of mind, right? Or if you do wake up nervous about it, you just hop into Quivr in the morning, I hope, hop into Quivr, hit that dashboard and then see how many open you still have, right? As an advisor, it makes me very, very, very calm. We've actually probably seen the most amount of anxiety reduction is in maybe first gen advisor who started the firm and now they're delegating things to the next gen. And they just maybe have that little bit of fear that things aren't getting done correctly or done at all. Operations managers, right? You can see how many RMDs do we have? How many account applications do we have? What's my load balance? What's my workload like? Things like that. Compliance. Are we meeting with people? Are we doing what we say we're supposed to do? You have all of
Right.
these insights at your fingertips. And the best part about it is you build it once and it automatically reloads for you. It updates for you. You can use the same one next year.
And I think part of the challenge that we face is we have this toolkit, but often if you haven't sort of seen the example of how these things get put together and ways to organize all the data in an intuitive way, that can be really challenging. And sort of, being able to sort of say like, okay, I've got this report now. I know I've got this data, but how do I kind of combine all of these different data points together? And I think that, for people that may not be as familiar, so, don't understand what Salesforce and reports and dashboards are. Dashboards are basically collections of reports where you can choose how to visualize the data. You can put it into a table. There's graph options. There's basically just, single number, sum it all up and throw it, into just like a very glanceable, I've got 5 of these types of records. I've got 7 of these types of records. And so being able to sort of take one of these dashboards where you may be referencing, 5, 6, 10, a lot of different reports, but distilling down into something where it's like, well, okay, how many new account workflows are running? I don't need to know necessarily all of the each individual piece of like where are they and whatever. I just want to see that big number. Well, okay, let's just sum that up. I know that there's 4 running. And then if I want to go down deeper, I can jump into that report from the dashboard and actually see all of that underlying data. And so it's kind of like combining all of this stuff together. And one of the things that again, I think one of our advantages of being at kind of the hub of this wheel, in that we have a lot of advisors that are using Quivr now, we get to sort of see how they're using it. And once we see how they use it, we can sort of pull some of this data together into this feels like a really good dashboard. Like, when I want to see what's going on with all these RMDs, great. Here's a dashboard. Here's all of them that are in these different steps, whatever stage they're at, like however you've defined it in your firm. Like that's, I think, one of the really powerful things about this is not only can you pull the data together, but then once you start seeing, like, we have that ability to sort of peek into a lot of, how users are using this information and extrapolate from that, like, okay, here's maybe some best practices. where inventing that stuff on your own can be hard. Like that's one of the hard pieces. A lot of the larger firms that we talk to are like, I feel like I'm drowning in data. And it's because they don't have someone that's just sort of sitting back and saying, like, okay, how do we organize this? What are the key pieces of data around this? And I really do think that's one of our advantages that we have is being able to sort of sit in the middle and say, like, hey, this firm over here is doing something really cool. Let's grab that and this, put it together, and now we've really got some.
I think mainly, Will, you just further confirmed my initial little prompt about if there's ever something that's keeping you awake at night, you're nervous about, you're unsure how you're doing it, and you're thinking there has to be a better way. Odds are there is. I'm not going to say we are done getting new questions at office hours, but I can't remember a time where a new theme has been introduced, right? Most of what we do is repeatable. It's just one topic versus the next, and it's just making sure that we, can apply an adequate methodology to accomplishing one task, because once you master your RMD process, your Roth conversion process is going to be pretty dang simple because it's more or less the same. But Will, we went a little long on this one, but that's probably because I got excited and talked way too much. But that's a wrap. Good stuff as always. If you are a Quivr user, for real, come to office hours. Join us on Wednesdays, where we can help you with similar items and hopefully, help remove that pit from your stomach about a specific topic. If you're not a Quivr user, hey, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is perfect. But don't worry, it's not too late. Come schedule a demo, hang out with me, hang out with Will, and see what Quivr can do for you in your practice.